Ta-da! Here we are. Jen's back.
Okay.
So
Whatever.
apparently you have to look right at the screen when you talk for us to hear you. So, all right, let's start the show.
Who the hell cares? That's a liberal.
It's like saying, would you rather have wine or water?
Wine, a half inch, means a lot sometimes.
Nobody likes to eat crow. Right.
No, I'm starving. How much is the economy today? Oh, it's that much. Pumpkin latte sucked, and I want to speak to your manager.
Objection, hearsay. Objection, leading. Objection, hearsay.
Where is that woman when Biden speaks? Out of here. His name is pronounced Joni. And that's the end of it.
So, happy International Fact Check Day. Did you know there was such a thing? And did you know that today is the day? April 2nd is the day that total strangers can tell you whether or not that what you're saying is true. So today's show is called Gag Order because we're living under the rule of government, it seems. So to everybody, happy International Fact Check Day.
Not a happy day.
It's not a happy day. Well, for some people, I guess. Well, for everybody. Okay, Grandma Joe is with us. Say hello.
Hi, Grandma.
And Bobby Dutcher is with us. And Colleen Mahoney and Ralph is with us. And Howard Zim is with us. Yeah, Jen is actually here on time, and maybe you'll actually hear her speak. Maybe. And the professor and our OG, Lucille Javon, is with us tonight. And Rosita Suarez is with us. How are you, Rosita? Should have made it April 1st. Yeah, right. Should have been April 1st for sure. Well, and why not? Because we seem to be just changing holidays all around. Did you hear that Easter was shared with National Transgender Awareness Day?
Did you see that Caitlyn Jenner was disgusted?
Say that again.
You can't hear me? I don't know how much louder I could speak.
I can only hear you when you're facing the computer. Apparently, you must have a filter on that computer where if you're looking away, your lips are looking away, it doesn't pick up, so that there's no background noise. We'll have to talk about that, I guess. Anyway, what did you say?
Jenner was mad about it.
Okay.
You can't hear me?
Every other word. Nothing surprises you.
I'm going on my phone.
Okay. Go on your phone. I'm sorry, Mick. Yeah. Jen wasn't here last week. We had a guest host. But thanks for being here today. We can hear you, but it sounds like an echo. Okay. Visibility low, as if they're not visible every day. Yeah, right. Exactly. Angela Ricca, here she is. How are you, girl? Good to have you. Yes, we understood what you meant. Okay, so anyway, speaking of Easter and Biden changing Easter, listen now, because today's show is called Gag Order, and it's about how the government is trying to gag us. So I'm going to play you in one go clips of Biden's Easter speech. The first one by NBC, and then the second one by PBS. And I want you to listen closely, Jen, and see what the difference you see in this speech. They're not the exact same clip, but kind of, sort of. Watch.
Pray for one another. to cherish the blessings and the possibilities that we have as Americans. That's what I see in our country. We're a great nation because we're good people. Our values are solid, and the rest of the world looks to us, and we're determined to keep up that banner. I've never been more optimistic about America than I am today. We have enormous opportunities, enormous opportunities. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity. God bless you all. Enjoy the day, and I'm coming down to do that Easter egg roll in just a minute. Thank you all so very, very much. Thanks, everybody. And by the way, say hello to oyster bunnies. Come on up, bunnies. Get up here so they can see you. Come on, get in there. Pretty big bunny, huh? All right. Thank you all so very, very much.
Are those transgender bunnies?
No, they're oyster bunnies.
I heard that.
They're oyster bunnies.
They identify as oysters.
Yeah, unbelievable. Hello, Maria. How are you? Good to have you here. President Poopy Pants. Yeah, exactly. Oh, hello, Beer Nut. Good to see you. Easter Trans Day. Yes. Little oyster bunnies. I mean, really, how come nobody fact checks him? So do you notice that NBC cut away at that part? You know, they cut away and they showed him in the crowd. So that's what the broader, because NBC has a much broader audience than PBS. So that's what the broader audience saw. PBS had it live, so there was no editing. So you got to see the whole thing. But not if you were watching NBC. They picked and they chose.
Of course not.
He was Rosita. He was rolling down with the eggs, and he was trying to show a little girl how to roll the eggs, and she wanted nothing to do with them. Anything like the Grinch who stole Christmas? Yeah, well, right, exactly. He's now stolen Easter. Biden's brain is an oyster.
I like oysters. Calm down.
Yeah, well, not oyster bunnies. I don't understand, but nobody fact checked him. Nobody bothered. Here on International Fact Check Day, you would imagine that a whole bunch of people would have said there's no such thing as an oyster bunny.
Because that was yesterday. No, wait, today?
It happened on yesterday. Yeah, it happened yesterday. But for International Fact Check, they don't even wait for International Fact Check Day to say that President Trump said something wrong. They jump on the bandwagon. It's ridiculous. When I look down, I know what God gave me at birth. The Democrats want to take it away. Yes, they even want to take away your penis. That's the truth.
100%.
Easter has pagan origins anyway. Ishtar, the fertility goddess, hence the bunnies and the eggs. Really? Pagan? I thought that, I mean, I know the first day of spring does, but I thought that Easter was all about Jesus Christ and rising from the dead. Any other president would have been in every channel as they were. Yes, exactly, Lucille. Exactly. Which is the topic of the show today. This man is absolutely, they are just hiding him from the American public. Technically, he acknowledged March 31st in 2022 and 2021 as well. Easter just fell on it this way. Yes, yes, it did. And we understand that the 31st is Transgender Day, but it's Easter. So that's what should have been, he's a Catholic. That's what we should have been talking about.
But don't holidays besides like veteran, don't they have like a set day? Why does this one change? Like Juneteenth is on Juneteenth.
June 19th, yeah.
Well, why is it following Easter around? Diana's here.
No, it's not following Easter around. It apparently Transgender Day is the 31st of March. And Easter just happened to fall on the 31st of March.
Oh.
You got it? So they made a big deal over the Transgender Day, and it happened to fall on Easter. Ishtar goddess of fertility. So yes, pagan origins. Okay, gotcha. Check it out. It was even on regular TV church down here. Okay, well, you got a corroborator here. As I said, I thought Easter was specific to the rising of Christ. I did not realize that Easter was before Christ. Mary Magdalene.
4.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Easter has to do with moon cycles. Oh, gotcha. So it's decided by the moon. I was wondering how we decided that, what day it was. Well, you know what? I love that our audience is so smart because I'm dumb as a rock when it comes to Easter.
So Jesus just decided to rise on a certain day, and then we just picked the next day with the moon.
It was 3 days after his death, but I don't know why it jumps all over the calendar, but apparently it's because of the moon cycles.
Or that it's all bullshit. He died for 3 days. Yeah, okay. Sure. He had another girlfriend somewhere in Israel.
Oh, here comes all of the letters from the Catholics. He was there when next he will say when he wax a priest, etc., etc. You need to explain that, Lucille. Oh, okay. Oh, next he will say when he was a priest. I thought we were still talking about Transgender Day. And he was waxing priests. Oh my God. We're going to hell. We're going to hell. We're definitely going to hell. We don't understand where Easter is, where Jennifer is blaspheming Jesus' death for 3 days. We're definitely going, if we evaporate right here.
He was on a bender.
He went on a bender. Her egg turned red in front of Caesar. Her egg. Or Ishtar? Is that who we're talking about? Which egg was? I can't. Are we still talking about transgender? Or are we talking about Ishtar? I mean, help me. I don't know. Oh
no,
my
we
God.
deal with people that identify as bunnies on that day. So, doesn't matter. That's it.
Tommy Shakes loves Deanna. We all love Deanna.
Her name's Diana, Mom.
Diana. Sorry.
It's actually Diana. I renamed her.
I'm down in the South, so now I'm now pronouncing.
Are you drunk?
No, I don't drink anymore.
Oh,
Christmas
God.
tree is pagan.
What's in Sunday?
No, I didn't drink Sunday. I haven't drank. I drank for my birthday one day.
That was last week.
Out of 6 weeks. And I never want to do that again because I was hungover. I thought I had the flu.
She rose 3 days later.
I did. I was in bed for 3 days. Okay. Wait, we're getting schooled on Easter. Easter is for Christ, but the bunnies and eggs are for the goddess. Gotcha.
I thought it was for CVS. I thought they invented that. You can all tell I love Easter.
Okay. I looked it up yesterday because oddly Passover is so much later. Yeah. So but Passover.
Not always. It's fallen on Easter Sunday.
Yeah. So I am so confused.
They also decide when they're going to pass over their holiday and move it down to the end of April.
Well, Christmas is supposed to be to celebrate Christ, but it said that he was born in the spring, but they moved it to December for Hallmark.
Probably the same way your father did to avoid the army in Italy.
He didn't want to be involved in the draft. We follow the first or last full moon is March. I don't remember. Okay. Jen, your friend Steve.
I know. Hello, how are you?
Okay, from Alaska. I love Alaska. What part of Alaska, Steve? Mary Magdalene went in front of Caesar and said, Christ is risen. Oh.
You know what she said, Rose. It wasn't.
Oh, Jennifer.
She was bad.
You know what? You have to watch The Chosen. Yeah,
Tell me she wasn't. Tell me she wasn't a whore.
Well, she was. She was drunk and a whore, and
where do you think Jesus went for 3 days?
To Magdalene's apartment?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So Colleen is giving us the skinny on how Easter is decided, and we will study up on this because we are very bad Catholics, apparently, because we don't understand it. Well, at any rate, so from going from the oyster bunnies to going to talking about Christ dying, we're going to talk about another funeral, the funeral for Officer Diller. Trump actually, wow, this is a real connection. We have a priest talking about Trump at Officer Diller's funeral. So watch this. If we're nothing but continuous here, we have continuity. Watch.
You were there when President Trump walked into the funeral home at the wake. What was your interaction like?
So it was really beautiful. Stephanie introduced me to the president as the priest that married them, and I was able to just say, Mr. President, thank you for being here. Thank you for your goodness to this family. Would you be willing to pray with us? And he said, of course, Father Duffy. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump would like to pray with us. Let's all say an Our Father together. And the whole room, including the president standing right next to me, prayed an Our Father. And then I gave a blessing to everyone present through the intercession of Our Lady of Sorrows. And then the president so beautifully turned and kissed baby Ryan on the forehead, and the baby clapped at the president, and it just broke the tension. It was just such a beautiful, human, simple moment that meant so much to the family and so much to the people in that room.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
He's the true Jesus Christ.
Well, it's amazing to me that Biden was in New York at that time. I don't think they would have wanted him at the funeral anyway, but he raised all that money. You would think that he would send some to the widow. Instead, Trump reached out to the Siller Foundation. As a matter of fact, one of my cop friends said that the widow was talking with the chief, and Trump called her while she was sitting there, and Trump told her that he contacted Steven Siller and he was making a donation to the Siller Foundation to pay off her mortgage. And she was overwhelmed, of course. But you would think that Biden was here with two other former presidents, and they raised millions of dollars. And
$5 million. It was $100,000 a ticket.
If you wanted to take the picture with them, $100,000 a ticket.
The $100,000. Meanwhile, I hope you have the video of Hochul almost in tears outside of the funeral.
I didn't, because it's got nothing to do with gag orders, and everybody, I'm sure, saw that when they kicked her out of the funeral. That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, let's see what our audience has to say about this. Wait, we're still on the bunny. Had you and Scott on our show, Patriot Transition Voice. Oh, yes. That was a cute meme. Oh, Jesus has a sense of humor. If he yes. The meme about him. Where were you for 3 days? That was great.
Yeah.
Okay. Kakalaki lady. Oh, that's Hochul, I think. Where did the bunnies get the eggs from? The chicks. Orthodox calendar is after Passover.
Yes.
Okay. This year, that's why I looked at it's usually Passover, Easter, Orthodox Easter. Okay, got it. Anchorage. Okay, I was there. It's beautiful there. Sadly, Easter isn't kosher for Passover, but fact, Jesus and the apostles were. Yes, exactly. Tommy Barlotta. Oh, we love yous too, Tommy. Oh my God! Didn't she get baptized, Jennifer?
No, I made my confirmation. Thank you.
Recently,
Barely.
you just studied the whole thing. Why are Democrats liberals for abortion but against the death penalty?
Because the people with the death penalty are allowed to vote. Babies aren't 18 yet.
Whoa,
And they're still
whoa, that's
impressionable.
heavy. That's heavy but true. Loved how Trump made it personal, not political. Biden should have been there, period. He was in New York. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't find confirmation of Trump's donation, but I believe it. Yep. Well, who's gonna post it, Colleen? Who's gonna post it? Yeah, I mean, the news. You think the news media is going to talk about Trump making the donation? I mean, they talked about it a little bit on Fox. I got the message in my inbox from a police officer.
I know it's 100% true.
Yeah, who was there, and because I know people at the Siller Foundation, but the news media is not going to report that. They're going to, again, gag order. The people are not allowed to know certain things. May I add, American police officers are the only officers who swear upon the Constitution and Bill of Rights, where international law enforcement swear to the government. That brilliant point. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant point. We get bells for that one. All right. Well, let's, the name of the show is Gag Order. And so let's listen to the super libs talking about Trump, a gag order being placed on Trump in his latest in the ridiculous Alvin Bragg, stupid, ridiculous non-case case. Watch.
You were there when President Trump walked into.
That's not it. This is it.
Joining me now here at the table is Mary McCord. She is the former acting assistant attorney general for national security at the Justice Department. Also with us is former federal prosecutor and my buddy Glenn Kirshner.
Donald Trump is laboring under, a hat trick of shut up because there are 3 gag orders that have been in place over time. Judge Chutkan in the D.C. federal prosecution, Judge Engoron in the New York civil fraud trial, and now Judge Merchan in the New York, I don't call it a hush money case. It's the 2016 election interference case that includes hush money payments that were then covered up with false business records. Has it done any good? Has it helped? You just said a minute ago, Donald Trump is putting his trial on trials. He's putting the criminal justice system to the test. And I think the system is failing. And the reason I say that is because you just read in part the first sentence from the motion that was filed by District Attorney Bragg. And it reads, defendant's dangerous, violent, and reprehensible rhetoric fundamentally threatens the integrity of these proceedings and is intended to intimidate witnesses and trial participants alike, including this court. To this old prosecutor, the only sentence that makes sense coming after that assertion is, therefore, the people are moving for pretrial detention. I'm not saying, listen, we have 4 criminal cases across 4 jurisdictions. There are different rules in every jurisdiction. But the fact that no judge and no prosecutor has stepped up to actually put a stop to Trump's dangerous rhetoric is a real problem.
Donald Trump's lawyers have argued is that he has the constitutional protection of free speech to say these things, to go after Merchan's daughter. How does that factor into this particular ruling? And is that an element that really prevents what Glenn says should happen next from happening?
Well, there's no question that defendants have First Amendment rights, but those rights can be constrained when you are in a courtroom facing a trial in a criminal case and in a civil case. And the Supreme Court's been very clear about that. That is the obligation of the judge to, ensure that the defendant's behavior won't impact the administration of justice. And that could be through things like gag orders. It's through other restraints too, right? Because the point is you have to ensure that the defendant gets a fair trial, but that also means the public and the government get a fair trial as well.
So stupid.
She's a former prosecutor in the Justice Department. So the government needs a fair trial as well. These people do not understand the Constitution. They don't understand that the people have the power first, not the government. just
I think the word they're looking for anyway is slander. They're not even smart enough to realize what they're saying. You know, they just keep saying you can't say things about people. If they use the word slander, it would probably sound a little bit more intelligent.
Well, what he's talking about though is that Judge McCushion, his daughter has a political strategy company, and she works for that Adam. Oh God, what's his name? The Russia congressman. I call him Adam Slimeball, but she works for people who have been persecuting Trump. So what Trump is saying is, how is he getting a fair trial? This is this judge's daughter. He runs in these circles. How, it's not a fair trial, but none of the trials that he's been, none of these prosecutions are fair. And we're going to hear a little bit from RFK about that. Actions speak louder than words. Trump is a good guy. Absolutely, Mick. Hi, John Beccaria. Good to have you here. The news didn't even cover Jen climbing over the wall in her living room.
Because migrants are allowed in. I can climb over walls too. If they can, I can.
The tourist burglar. Democrats and their DOJ are the ones interfering with the election. Absolute lawfare. Absolutely. What happened to sticks and stones? It's disgusting that words are now criminal. It's actually frightening.
Well, in New York, you can use sticks and stones because that's what they've been doing all week. Hitting people with sticks and stones and hammers. And they're not even in jail.
Right, but we're prosecuting Trump over
Sticks
the
and
way
stones will break your bones and your skull.
We're prosecuting a former president over bookkeeping, over something that happened ages ago. We're prosecuting him over over valuing his properties. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But what's his name? The late night talk show host, Jon
Stewart.
Yeah, was he the one that sold his apartment for way over what it was worth?
Yep. He was making fun of Trump, and his wife sold the apartment and then undervalued it so she didn't have to pay the taxes on it. And it's double it. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. It's okay for the prosecutors and judges to persecute Trump, but he's not allowed to stand up for himself. Exactly. Because he's got what they were saying there. It was too long a clip, but they were saying that he's got a bully pulpit. And so if he is battering people with his words, that he will scare off witnesses, and that people will be afraid to come forward and speak, and they won't. That's it, Adam Schiff. They won't get a jury. So it was all BS. Another way to put your finger on the scales of justice. So. All right, let's see. Okay, Adam Schiff. That was Mick. That was Howard that gave me that name. When Trump is reelected, he should make all federal employees take a class on the Constitution. You know what? They should be doing that anyway because
nobody knows what the Constitution is anymore, so it doesn't really matter.
You're right. They basically erased the Constitution. But here's the best part. When I was working for the state of New York, when I was a community board chairwoman, I had to swear to uphold the Constitution. That's part of working for government, even locally. You have to swear to uphold the Constitution, not just of the state, but of the United States. So, these people are swearing supposedly to uphold the Constitution, and they don't know what the Constitution is. Communists and Nazis used free press until in power. Then there was a zero democracy. Democrats say, you say they're safe. I don't know, but no Trump's nor ours. Okay, I bumbled that, or it was written bad. All right, hold on. The professor has a lengthy situation.
We're still talking about Easter.
Pontius Pilate's wife plus Mary Magdalene went to Rome to see Tiberius Caesar. He held out an egg to the emperor and said, "Christ is risen," to which Tiberius replied that there was a much chance of a human being returning to life from the dead as there was of the egg in her hand turning red. Then the egg turned red.
The Bible is a wonderful comic book full of politics. I love it.
Wow, that's pretty good. I don't remember reading that. I read the Bible a long time ago, and I gotta be honest, I skimmed most of it. I only liked the stories I liked. They prosecuted Trump for overvaluing his properties. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is getting millions of dollars for his crackhead paintings. Indeed. And he hasn't paid his taxes on it either. Okay, so all right, this is a little bit of a lengthy video, but it's worth it. This is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he is being asked about Trump being a threat to democracy. Listen to what he says. Smart cookie, this one.
People talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses. Do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give the access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course, tried to overturn a free and fair election. He tried to overturn one, right? He's still fighting in court.
Yes.
How is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If him trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponents, it has license for any atrocity.
So just to be clear, you're saying you could make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Donald Trump. That's what you just said.
But who else has ever tried to censor? What president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents? What president has weaponized the federal agency? When my father came into the Justice Department, the first week he was there, he got all of the branch and division attorneys together, and he said, whatever we do, we are not going to use the power of the Justice Department for political reasons.
Trump, of course, has said that he would do that. He has said that he would do that. Of course,
and that is reprehensible.
And he is the only president who's tried to overthrow the results of an election.
Well, you know what? Let me say something about that. I'm not going to defend President Trump on that. That was appalling. And there's many things that President Trump has done that are appalling. But in 2001, we had an election stolen in this country during the Bush-Gore election. In 2004, I wrote an award-winning article for Rolling Stone that showed how that election was stolen from John Kerry. So I don't think, and most Americans agree with me about 2001, that it was a stolen election from the Democratic Party candidate. So I don't think people who say that the election is stolen, not that we shouldn't make pariahs of those people. We shouldn't demonize them. We shouldn't vilify them. What we should be doing is saying, let's all get together, Republicans and Democrats, and fix the election system so that it cannot be fixed, so that we're the exemplary democracy of the world. We ought to, Las Vegas, let me tell you this, Las Vegas is built on machines that can count and never make mistakes. Can't we make an election machine, and can't we have an electoral process that every
when you
American
go through
says
all the
whatever
data,
happens,
okay, hold on,
it
but when
cannot be, it can't be fixed.
I understand that we want elections to be as perfect as they possibly can be.
Yeah.
And one should not use the fact that the election was not stolen and was not cheated to not try to perfect it. I understand that distinction. But when you do as you're doing, and you open the door to, well, we want every machine, you're opening the door to people who can say, well, then that's exactly what I'm saying. The machines miscounted, the machines did this, but they didn't. Every single analysis has shown that that did not happen, right? As you know. Do you worry that you're opening the door for people to believe this? Look at the Republican primary voters and that they believe.
I'm not worried.
Trump won.
I don't worry about how people might misinterpret my words. What I said, I mean, and I'm careful about how I use language. Oh, I'm not saying that election was that there was cheating. I've never said that. What I've said is that there are problems, particularly, Aaron, if you don't have paper ballots. The election machines can be fixed in various ways, and that's just a fact.
They're not mentioning how Hillary Clinton challenged it. They're not mentioning how, let's see, like Tesla's self-driving cars, they're machines. They keep failing. They're killing people. We didn't have these problems when it was penciled in. You do paper ballots and you count them in front of a live camera streaming all through. And then like I always said, you have fingerprints. And if you don't have fingerprints, you have face recognition, because fingerprints will pick up felons. You're not supposed to vote. They'll know if you're there and you're not supposed to be there. They'll know if you're not a citizen. But no, now they got rid of the signature cards.
What I loved about this interview, and why I specifically bring the CNN and MSNBC and the very lib interviews to the show, is because I know most of our viewers are not watching those stations. But I wanted people to see that these reporters, they're not reporters anymore. She was debating him. She was pushing him to agree with her agenda, that this was ridiculous, that no election can be stolen, that there was information. And he came back at her. And this is why I like Robert F. Kennedy. I don't care for his politics. I care for some of his politics, but not all of it. And, certainly love that he's in the race because he's going to take votes from Biden. But beyond that is he said that the 2001 election was stolen and the 2004 election was stolen. Well, I could tell you what. I could see why anybody would think that 2001 was stolen. I was there biting my nails.
2001, yeah.
2001, Bush Gore. I mean, the hanging chads. That was something that was never done before. And it happened to be the state that Bush's brother was the governor of, and the attorney general was a Republican. And that was the state that put him over the top. Could we see why people would think that election was stolen? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there was a process, and it was not verified, but it was the Congress ratified the election, and that was the end of it. The same thing happened here. Because a lot of us knew that there were anomalies in the voting process this time due to COVID, and a lot of us lived through the
He
Bush
tried to
War.
stop Election Day, Biden, during COVID. He tried to cancel it, and they overturned it.
Right. And this has been going on. I remember when Giuliani tried to change the election in 2001 because of the Twin Towers, the 9/11. And he wanted to keep another term. So stuff like this happens all the time. But what happened in 2020 is no different than what has happened in the past. And that's why Nancy Pelosi did what she did to ensure that she got that election ratified, because once it was ratified, that's it. There is no mechanism to overturn it. And that's why they made such a ridiculous situation out of it, saying that it was an insurrection. These elections have been questioned over and over again, but the left, have to continue to try to label that questioning of that election as an insurrection to keep their agenda going. And Kennedy is not willing to play along. He said, she pressured him. He said it was reprehensible, all these things. But then he comes back with, I questioned elections too. And I didn't believe that Bush Gore wasn't stolen. And that in and of itself is, to me, why people need to, really pay attention to some of the stuff he says, because he knows he's just saying it as it is, and that is going to support a lot of the information from conservatives and a lot of the positions of conservatives. So
listen, it's having them in office and in government is like having Putin in charge of everybody. You're never going to win no matter what you do. It's just not going to happen. The only way that they can count votes is on live television, and even then with elected judges maybe that you voted in sitting there counting them on TV, showing you go and give it in. There's no way that
you could have a perfect election.
The Board of Elections, people come into the Board of Elections from people that basically appoint them and bring them in and give them positions.
Yes.
So if you have Democrats running the Board of Election, you're going to have more Democrats in the Board of Election. If you have a Republican, it's going to be more Republican. Yeah. I've seen it with you. You were there. Every people that I know were there, and I've seen it turn like a revolving door from Republican to Democrat, Republicans, and funny. So those are the terms they win most of the time.
And that's why the paper ballot, and he said it, the same thing that Trump was saying, the paper ballots are the only way to do this. These mail-in ballots, they don't work. Other countries won't use them.
I mailed my tax checks for my company out. They still haven't gotten them.
Yeah.
I gave them to the mailman. Yeah. It's been 3 weeks. They're gone. Now I'm getting penalized.
So whether you like him or not, what I'm saying is, that interview said a lot. It showed us a lot about CNN, that they're not reporting, they're debating, they're trying to push their agenda forward, which we know, but you really see it here, because usually they just bring on people on that show that are going to kiss their ass and agree with them. This guy stood up and said, wait, no, and hey, by the way, I questioned elections too, and we all know that to be true. Okay.
Now they're trying to get the illegal immigrants to be able to vote in the elections, and next you're going to be calling in like American Idol on the phone. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to go by your cell phone number. You're going to call in and you're going to cast the vote and you'll find out.
Yeah. Maria, he has a paralyzed larynx. It's a disease, and it's painful to listen to him speak, because it sounds like he's out of breath all the time. But that's what it is. Even a stop clock is right twice a day. RFK, got it. Why don't they talk about Al Gore being a threat to democracy? Yeah, well, he did. No, 270, then it goes to the House. 1 vote for each state, plus 26 wins the Oval Office. Right. I mean, listen, we could have something that's never happened in history, where no candidate gets 270 votes. It can actually happen. I don't think it will, because I tell you, I think he's going to take so many votes from Biden that I love that he's in the race. I think it's amazing.
Listen, the only way you're going to get rid of any of these issues is if you get rid of parties, because then nobody knows this has become a high schoolyard war zone. Yeah. And you'll do anything to win that fight in that schoolyard. And that's what they're doing. So if they don't know what party you're from or affiliated with, and there are no parties, then you're just strictly going on beliefs and what you believe in. And, there's Democrats I agree with sometimes. There's Republicans I don't agree with sometimes. There's definitely conservatives I don't agree with sometimes. But if you don't know what they are and there's no party, then you're strictly using your brain to vote. Well, you're not feeling guilted out. You're not feeling guilted into voting for the party that you belong to.
Right. It's tribalism. Absolutely. Listen, we don't have parties here in South Carolina. You can vote in either, primary, and you're not registered as.
But what I'm saying is, if you didn't have the label on you, then you wouldn't feel the guilt to, because the first time I voted Democrat for president, I would side myself, but I did it because I wasn't
Yep.
voting for Romney.
Right.
He was too
Well-
conservative for me.
Well, you know, the places that will work best in are those places that are lopsided, either Republican or Democrat. But I agree. You know, right now the Republican Party is ridiculous, and I have this comment up because it's really important. The professor says, look for a Republican congressman quitting before the election. That would make the Democrats control the House, and then they can pick the president. And, you know, we are already seeing it. China is picking off Republican congresspeople by giving them jobs, and they're going. I mean, the ridiculousness of, you know, them throwing out George Santos when they did, McCarthy leaving,
He needed to go. That man was so delusional and corrupt and a sociopath.
Yes,
He was a
but you
danger
let
to anything.
the people decide. There wasn't even a trial. It doesn't matter. You can't, just because Jen knows it doesn't mean he had a fair trial in a court of law. I mean, see, that's the biggest problem that we have as Americans, right? We want free speech, but we're going to get rid of TikTok. You know, we want free speech as long as it's the speech I agree with. You know, we want free speech, but we don't want this.
No,
We don't
you don't
want
need to get rid of TikTok. You need to be a parent and watch your kid. How about that? Don't give them a phone at 3 years old.
Yeah.
Or
Good evening, Sean. Good to have you here. Bush did not steal the election. Gore tried to with the hanging Chad BS. Media is all BS. Listen, that was a nail biter election. And let me tell you something. It's whether it was stolen or not, you know, the circumstances, if it was a Democrat, right? If it came down to New York, you know, or Arizona or whatever, if it was a Democrat in charge as governor, and that Democrat happened to be the brother of the guy who was running for president, are you telling me you wouldn't think it stunk? Of course it stunk. It did not look good. It wasn't great. Listen, I was the New York chair for the victory campaign for Bush. So to watch that happen, of course I wanted Bush to win, but how it happened did not pass the sniff test. And if you're saying it, you know, it did without a problem, then I disagree with you greatly, because that's the kind of stuff that makes people crazy. It's the kind of stuff that just does. Hi, Mickey. How are you? They cry foul when a Republican wins an election. Absolutely. And they should have cried foul in 2020. See, that's the whole thing. You have to be consistent, but that's not the way it is. And what he said, RFK, was that Biden is the biggest threat to democracy that we've seen because of censorship.
You know, it's so funny. The chief of patrol, Shell, and all the higher ups in the NYPD went nuts on a reporter for giving false information about their statistics and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The reporter actually had the nerve, who was a liberal, to get on air today and say how they're silencing me. It's a freedom of speech. I can say but I'm sorry. How many articles did you write about Trump not being able to speak?
That's right.
Because they publicly put you on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, told you to check your facts, which you didn't. Now, all of a sudden, everybody has the right to freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And the main reporter of that story said to deliver the news as a journalist. So, okay, so now if you're a journalist, you have the freedom of speech, but not
right.
for anybody
Only
else.
journalists.
Because it's always right. If you read the Post and the Daily News, it's two completely different newspapers.
Absolutely. I mean, that's it. You know, they think that they're smarter than everyone else. With paper ballots, we have results same day. Now it takes weeks. It's crazy. Yeah, it's not okay. And you know, it's somebody said it. Stalin said is more interested in how votes are counted than who is voting, and that's true. When they know they're rigging an election, they change the laws to undermine the public. Well, that's what happened in 2020. Hillary Clinton hit squad will take out RFK before the election. Let's see. George Washington, first term election, 33 votes, no New York in that election. That's true, right? New York was abstained, right? Jen always agrees with me. Yeah, you and Jen share a brain. I've said that all Democrats are not Republicans, but most Republicans are secretly Democrats. Yeah, that's very true. The Democrats wouldn't do recounts for Trump, and when they did, they wouldn't allow Republicans into the election facilities to monitor the recount. That election stunk to holy heaven. 2020 stunk to holy heaven. Yeah, and so did 2000, and so did the 2000 election. They both stunk to holy heaven. I'm here to report that the primary voting polls today were completely dead. I was the only one at my polling site. I hope everyone voted early.
I would never vote early. I would never. You give them more time to fix your crap.
No, I always listen. It's early voting is the thing. We have to get out and vote early.
I only like early voting. I won't do it. I just can't. But early voting, if they report it correctly, can actually probably sway you if the numbers, you know what I'm saying, in favor of some.
Well, they can't. They don't. Early voting is an early tallying.
They don't tell you an estimated.
No, they don't tell you what's going on.
I pay no attention to early voting, so I don't know. I just don't like it.
No, early voting. Early voting is what the majority of Americans want. It's voting in the machine, just like anywhere else. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's a problem within the Republican Party. They only want people within their own circle because most leaders are owned by the Democrats. That prevents the party from expanding, trying to eliminate strong candidates. So leaders keep the party divided. It's both parties do it. That's why it's called the swamp. The military-industrial complex, the deep state, is the biggest threat to democracy. 100%. Absolutely. Now that we found out Jen voted for a Democrat, you may need to replace her as co-host. I
did. I could not vote for Mitt Romney. I could not.
Yeah,
he was way too against gay marriage. It was. I just couldn't. I'm not against gay marriage. He was way too conservative for me, and I wasn't doing it.
Yeah, she was young. Okay, so we're not going to get through all of these that I have here, so I'm going to pick and choose. All right, I want you to listen to this is about the ACLU and free speech, and it's something that many people don't know. Some people do know, but anyway, listen.
People think the ACLU is a very left-wing organization. I remember when George Herbert Walker Bush was running against Michael Dukakis for president, and he kept saying that Michael Dukakis was a card-carrying ACLU member, as if he's way too liberal for this country. That reputation, but it really doesn't deserve it because it represents people on all sides of the political spectrum.
Charlottesville, the Virginia affiliate of the ACLU, agreed to take the case of the white supremacists who wanted to march and said that was their civil right. And they took that case. Did you agree with that?
Absolutely.
In Charlottesville, the ACLU represented the white supremacists in their rally. And there were members of the ACLU who were outraged by that. They didn't think that the ACLU should be representing people on the far right, but the organization was standing for free speech, free assembly, free expression.
I agree with ultimately that this is the right call for us to represent groups, even the ones we hate, and even groups whose ideology we detest.
We spoke to Anthony Romero, who's the executive director now of the ACLU.
I can understand why a young organizer focused on racial justice says, why are we spending our money defending the Nazis? And that's a worthwhile conversation for us to have, to talk about our theory of change. Yet, if you grant government the ability to deny anyone the right of freedom of speech or freedom of association, you imperil it for everyone.
Do you think that the ACLU needs to take a less absolutist position on freedom of speech than you have in the past?
No, it's essential, especially now. I often have to put the shoe in the other foot for some of our folks to say, it might have been the Nazis who were being censored in Charlottesville, but in Maricopa County, it could be the Dreamers. Or in Oakland, it might be Black Lives Matter.
My sense, the ACLU's first obligation is to defend the Bill of Rights, which includes freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. They stand for that. That's how they became the ACLU.
Well, freedom of speech is totally legal no matter what you say, as long as you don't cause harm to anybody while you're doing it.
Well, and what they're trying to creep it in with hate speech, saying that, hate speech causes damage to people, and so you're not supposed to, say things that harm people, and that's how you start to lose your rights. You give a little, you give a little, you give a little. You can't. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights doesn't say you have the right to do this unless it's that. It says this is where the government's restrictions are, and this is what the people have an absolute right to do. Okay, so now that we found out, we already did this. Powers that be control elections. This is true. I don't believe in early voting either. Yeah, but if you don't, and they mess up on election day and you can't vote, you're kind of
they're gonna mess up on election day. They're messing up now. We just don't know.
I don't know. The deep state is a threat to national security. It absolutely is. Jen will be replaced with Svetlana. Jen is the best. Oh, look at this. You've got your fans are coming to your defense. Graham Greene had it right. Freedom of speech is free for everyone except Donald Trump. Exactly. And our next clip is going to show this. This was 4 years ago. Let's see. Where is it? Watch what happened to Donald Trump on YouTube 4 years ago.
More than 300 campaign ads for President Trump have been taken down from YouTube and Google this year. That's according to a 60 Minutes investigation. Most of the ads were removed from these platforms over the summer for violating company policy. In this 60 Minutes Overtime segment, Leslie Stahl spoke to YouTube's CEO about the company's ad policy.
As you know, conservatives think that you discriminate against them. How do you answer that?
Well, first of all, there are lots of very successful conservatives creators on YouTube. Our systems, our algorithms, they don't have any concept of understanding, what's a Democrat, what's a Republican. And we do hear this criticism from all sides. We also have people who come from more liberal backgrounds who complain about discrimination. And so I think that no matter who you are, we are trying to enforce our policies in a consistent way for everybody.
Ian Sherr joins me now. He is an editor-at-large for CNET. All right, Ian, what do you make of the CEO's response on how the company polices its content? Is it possible for it to avoid bias?
A lot of the conservative commentators would say, no, it's impossible to avoid bias. And that's part of the issue that is existing here, is that there's a larger debate going on about how conservative speech is handled online and whether or not any of these social networks are handling it well. When the logic, a lot of times the debate becomes, well, a lot of these companies are based in Silicon Valley, and California is a historically very liberal area, especially San Francisco. And so they can't ignore their biases, and that's a problem. So, yeah.
She meant very successful conservatives that aren't running for office. Their ads are left on there.
Well,
not people running for office. And it's
well,
not.
we found out that she was full of shit, right? 4 years later, after the Twitter files and all that, we found out that they were absolutely censoring. And now we know what's going on with Google.
Well, Joe, my Joe that I work with, worked at Google during the election with Clinton and Trump. And when he came in, the day, like a weeks leading up on their board, their clear board, they were writing like Hillary and, F Trump, whatever. He walked in when he won. He said he swore on his kid on the floor, hysterical crying. There was a therapist on hand, and that's when he quit.
Yeah. Well,
he left.
Yeah,
he had to lie. He couldn't even tell them he was Republican. So that's how biased Google is.
That's right. So we know she was full of crap, and we know what they were doing. And so, and even, talk about election interference, plenty of it. All right. So in the Supreme Court, and I want to get to this one, in the Supreme Court, they are now hearing about free speech and social media. So have a listen.
The Supreme Court is wading into a digital age First Amendment battle. Do social media companies have the right to decide what appears on and what's removed from their own platforms? That is the question at the heart of two major cases heard today by the justices. A decision here could give government the power to change what millions of people see online. After sites like Twitter and Facebook removed former President Donald Trump following the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, Texas and Florida passed laws restricting how these platforms moderate and remove content and users from their websites. But tech industry groups sued the states.
Whether it happens to a conservative group or to a liberal group or to any other kind of group, okay, people in America should be able to access the modern public square to express themselves. It does tend to be conservative groups that are under the thumb more of some of these social media sites.
Alan Gura with the Institute for Free Speech filed an amicus brief with conservative activist group Moms for Liberty in support of the states.
Moms for Liberty had a problem. The teachers union, their sort of traditional political adversary, went to Facebook and put pressure on Facebook and said, look, you know, the people who are promoting disinformation. And instead, Moms chapters saw all kinds of posts blocked. Things were very innocuous. Things like, are you ready to run for school board? Or questions about, hey, does anybody know what curriculum is being used by the school district?
I think we can all agree that content moderation as a process is really problematic. I don't think the right solution to that is to give the government the ability to impose its own editorial viewpoints on private actors. I think that's a dangerous power to hand the government.
David Green is with the Electronic Frontier Foundation and filed a brief opposing the states.
Social media sites have a First Amendment right to curate and edit their sites according to their own curatorial and editorial philosophies and policies. That is a right that others in their position have, whether they be art curators or parade organizers.
But are tech companies publishers? Gura and the states don't think so.
Whose speech is it? And nobody thinks that your speech is the company's speech. It's obviously your speech. If I pick up the phone and talk to you today, it won't be AT&T speech. And AT&T can't unplug me because they don't like my politics.
This could have all been avoided without the internet.
Right. Jen is a proponent for pencil and paper.
It really, really could have, because everyone wants to cry, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, because they're not influencers. That's why. Nobody bothered you when there was nothing around to let everyone know about how some people of your walk of life are nuts. I remember I got beat up because I'm white. Black people got beat up, gays got beat up. You know, they weren't crazies running around with rocks all the time. You didn't know how much a celebrity made so that you could be envious. You know, your salaries weren't put into the tabloids online. You know, you know how much I hate the internet.
Well, there's a modern information age. But, you know, the truth is...
And that modern information age of what, though? There's not even truth behind any of it anymore.
Well, but that opens a can of worms, right? So what happens is things change and we have to adapt to it. But what's happening is the government is coming in. People, as more and more people look at the government as their parent or their provider, then more and more people are willing to give up their rights.
They're not even a guidance counselor. They're like the janitor in school. That's how you should treat them. That just cleans up your shit if something happens.
Well, but the whole thing is that when people understand that the government is themselves, that this is, you know, an exercise, that this is a experiment, that people have their ability to go their own way and do things as a society together. If we understand that the power lies with us, then we won't be looking to government to make all these laws. Government has become, and I've said this before, the blob. They make so many rules and regulations for our society. And as government becomes bigger, God becomes smaller in our life. Family becomes smaller in our life. And what government does, and what these politicians are doing, is what we've learned throughout the course of time is when people feel unsafe, they are willing to give up their rights. Look at what happened post 9/11 with, taking off your shoes to fly, you're being pat down, screening, all of this. They just
during COVID, people lost their businesses. They were afraid. And I used to tell them, just stay open. What does it matter? Eddie did.
Right.
What does it matter?
Right.
What are they going to do to you? They're not going to put you in jail because there is no jail.
Well, the politicians understand that fear is the best way to get control over people. And that is what's going on. That's what happened in COVID. That's why the ballots went out. That's why so many things went on behind the scenes that were not legal, if you will, that didn't follow the rules that people voted for. And that's why there was a question about the legitimacy of the election and how it went down. That's where we are right now. We're in a place right now where our speech, our First Amendment right, the most important right that we have, is now being trampled on. And as you rightly said before, the reporters, media want their rights to be absolute. And they want to say, well, the First Amendment is really for the press, which it was. That's what it was created for. It was created for the press so that the press could criticize their government. But now the press wants to separate themselves from the people. But you can't do that, because especially in an age where anybody like us idiots can have a show.
All you have is a bachelor's degree, honey. If that. Relax.
where people come and speak. But we're over. We have some things here. ACLU protected Nazi free speech, but not conservatives. Right. Pick and choose. The Secret Service are the only real measure of a nation's political health, the only true expression of its subconscious, which is what he was referring to with Graham Greene. And it's the truth. And the Secret Service right now is protecting Joe Biden from his political opponents. That's a problem. Donald Trump also has rights, and they did violate his rights because they can do it to him. They could do it to anyone. And that's what he's been saying. They believe their penalty for success. Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. They are slapping you around if you have success. ACLU, yes, right. They said that. No matter what, it's very important to vote. It absolutely is. I follow the trend. You've got to bend, you've got to change, you've got to see that things are changing. But the most important thing is you have to preserve your own rights. Nobody's going to come in here, swoop in and protect you. Every citizen has the bully pulpit. Every citizen has the rights, and we are the only ones that can save our society. We're looking to Donald Trump to do it, but because he's got a bigger voice. But the truth is up to us to do it. We have to push back against, this encroachment of government. We have to push back against the press. We have to push back against the fact checkers. We have to do it. And even if it's that you're going to have your own little, whatever you're going to post on Facebook or whatever, and they take you down, you got to try again and try again and try again.
Page. Make a fake email.
That's it. They say nothing about social media censorship. They call for censorship against people. See you ladies next Tuesday.
Yeah, see you next Tuesday.
Okay. Nixon on fear. People react to fear, not lovely. Lovely tips. Are we back to the transgender thing? What I didn't show was in Canada, you could go to jail.
To live life, and they respond in fear, not with your tips.
Yeah, that's right. People don't vote in happiness. They vote in anger, and that's why I believe that Joe Biden will definitely be losing this election.
Just stop paying your taxes, then they can't make any money, and they won't even be around.
Well, that's true, but again, fear of prosecution.
There'll be no either. Well, they'll probably all kill us, but
they can't kill us all. I mean, that's the whole thing. The First and Second Amendments are the most important amendments because it gives you the right to speak and then the right to defend yourself.
Meanwhile, they have most of the guns now in New York. They just got 8 of them, the migrants, 8 of them in one house squatting with ketamine, crack, cocaine, fully loaded guns.
Yeah.
They're walking around the streets with guns, tons of money, more money than I have. That's great. Their amendments are, the Constitution's really protecting them.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Colleen makes a good point. Tag people in posts to get around shadow banning. Yes. When you're posting, if you put @followers, you'll see it. It'll be a little gray circle with a whole bunch of people's heads, and it'll notify your followers that you posted something. You can only do it once a day, but that gets around shadow banning. That's the only way that I have been able to end run what they're doing to us on Facebook. So good point, Colleen. Thank you for bringing it up. And just so that you know, a couple of things that we didn't see, Kyle Rittenhouse, he spoke at a college and they tried to stop him from speaking. There was a pro-Israel vote out of New Jersey, the city council, and the pro-Palestine people went there and protested. And so the pro-Israel people came and counter-protested.
They also ruined Easter Sunday Mass at St. Patrick's.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. But your voice can be heard. They're trying to stop our voices from being heard. Your voice can be heard. Find a way around it. My friend Mike in Myrtle has squatters dealing drugs in his complex. Man died and son can't get them out. Oh, geez, Louise. Yeah, well, apparently the Chamber of Commerce brought illegal migrants into Myrtle Beach hotels. They are paying for them to be bussed in. And it's turning into a war.
You need to run for office in Myrtle Beach, Leedy.
Well, listen, we have the best governor.
I didn't say governor.
He's doing a great job.
Good. So run for something else.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to run for anything. I am done. It's now up to the young people to start stepping up to the plate.
Good.
Me in politics, I'm better behind the scenes. All right. What else, Jen?
That's it. I'm going to eat. I'm starving.
Okay. Everybody, we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you for watching. If you're watching, please go to YouTube @Right Stuff Gals and subscribe to the channel. So important. We're starting to pick up some momentum on that. Rumble is dead for us. I don't know. If you go to Rumble and subscribe to our channel there @Right Stuff. And we love you all, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Yes. Bye-bye.